では皆さん、concluding remarks, I would like to introduce our best friend, Stéphane.
Charitos.
It's very hard for me to pronounce, and he has been such a strong supporter. And then we would like to say thank you to you. Without your help, we could not do anything. So we would like to have some words from you too. Thank you.
Let me begin by thanking, can you hear me? Let me begin by thanking all of you for coming out today on this bright, sunny New York City day. And so thank you for joining us at Columbia today. I hope you had a valuable and productive day, and that you will leave Columbia with new ideas on how to further energize your language classroom and programs. Let me also thank Jisuk and Fumiko for putting together today's program. Let me also thank Simon, who works for me, and helped immeasurably in putting together this program. And finally, let me thank Professor Tosaku for his keynote address and for his guidance in how to apply social network approaches to language classroom practices. It's always difficult to come up with closing remarks on the fly. Remarks that both capture the substance of the event and are faithful to its core message. But I will give it a try. When I was asked a few weeks ago to say a few closing words about today's event, I was, to be frank, a bit befuddled. Social networking approaches, such as they have been defined today, were not something I was familiar with. In fact, when Jisuk and Fumiko first approached us with their idea for a workshop on social networking approaches for the language classroom, I first assumed that they were drawing upon the interdisciplinary field of social network analysis to fashion a variant of social network theory concerned with language as it's used by everyday people in everyday interactions. Perhaps something similar to the approach introduced to social linguistic research in the 1980s by James and Lester Milroy. I don't know if any of you know the work by Milroy. This dates me a little bit. But after today's workshop, it seems to me that social network approaches borrows elements not only from the social network analysis framework, but also perhaps from Michael Byram's model of intercultural competence, from the New London Group's emphasis on multiliteracies, and from the national standards for foreign language learning in the 21st century, as they were promulgated by the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. More particularly, in the emphasis social network approaches put on curiosity and openness, on the weight it puts on the student's capacity to interpret an event from another culture and relate it to an event in one's own culture, and in its ability to help students critically evaluate perspectives, practices, and products in one's own and other cultures. I hear echoes of Michael Byram's savoir-être, savoir comprendre, and savoir s'engager, which are three of the foundational knowledges required to achieve intercultural competence. And the focus social network approaches puts on globalization and the need to train students to acquire the skills needed to be competitive in the 21st century, I hear the call of the New London Group for the need to develop new literacies that could enable students to successfully navigate within altered technological, cultural, and linguistically diverse communities that are shaped by increased transnational migration and the proliferation of diverse modes of new communications technologies. And finally, I perceive a comparable desire in both the social network approach and the national standards to adequately equip students linguistically and culturally so that they are better able to communicate successfully in a pluralistic society, both domestically, here and abroad. However, tracing notional genealogies or tracking down theoretical filiation is not what is important here. What is at stake here today is the fact that instructed language education can and should benefit from a greater integration with a variety of life world contexts and communities, especially under our current social political conditions of social, environmental, and economic fragility and instability. In fact, I would even say that there is an urgency today, given the current climate, and in particular the climate in this country, to develop pedagogical methods and approaches that help our students cultivate empathy, heighten attentiveness to the other, with a capital O, and build up their commitment to civic engagement. I appreciate, therefore, a theme articulated throughout the course of the day regarding the importance of approaching the pedagogical potential of social networks with an emphasis on the critical reflection that should be given to their affordances and drawbacks. Too often, instructors, in their zeal to innovate, fail to fully consider the range of implications engendered by the adoption of a new technology or an innovative approach. However, in this particular instance, I do believe that the participants at today's workshop will leave with a deep, critical understanding of the approach championed by Professor Tosaku and put into practice at Columbia's Japanese language program. And accordingly, I applaud the efforts of Professor Tosaku, Mrs. Park, and Dr. Nazikian, and I look forward to seeing their ideas replicated by colleagues in other programs and at other institutions. Thank you.